Welcome to the Where Are We Going Now podcast, where you meet interesting and crazy people, hear their stories on how they navigated through their own life, to hopefully give you some insight on how you'd like to navigate your life. Welcome to the Where Are We Going Now podcast, episode 11. Today I'm here with Brendan Sargent. He's a comedian, actor, writer from Worcester, Massachusetts. Say hi to the folks, Brendan.
Hi to the folks, Brendan.
I met Brendan...
First joke out of the
way. You're an asshole. I met Brendan when I was about probably 14 years old, something around there, right?
Yeah.
He was friends with my sister. We ended up going to the same high school for 2 years anyways. Mm-hmm. Very, very talented guy, actually to the point where it makes me mad how talented he is. But don't tell him that because his head's already too big. So, Brendan, you are one of two kids?
One of two, yes.
One of two, and you're the younger.
I'm the younger. I have one older sister named Kate. Hi, Kate.
Hey, Kate. So your parents... Ralph and Sheila, what did they do for work growing up?
My dad was and is still a lawyer in his own private practice, and my mother was and is a nurse.
Cool. So what did that have any effect on you growing up?
Probably, yeah. I was an annoying kid.
Did you always have Band-Aids on you?
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, they affected me in different ways. Like I think my dad was a professional arguer. At least I think that was how I thought about what being a lawyer was when I was a kid. And so, like, I prided myself on always having, like, an argument, which is probably really fun to raise a kid whose instinct is to argue with you no matter what. But yeah, so that was always something that I was like, I need to like make sure I have evidence. I need to make sure I like have a point for stuff.
Did you ever want to be a lawyer?
Yes, I did actually. I thought about it a lot until I actually remember this very vividly. I don't remember when a lot of my like I wanted to be this when I was a kid stopped, but I remember spending a day or like it was like take your son to work day or whatever. But I went to court with my dad, and I was like, this is dull. Like, this is extremely dull. Yeah. In my head, like, I don't know. I watched so many movies growing up that, like, in my head, it was going to be like my
you the first handle the
like
truth.
I thought my dad, like, I was going to get there. My dad was going to be screaming like, "No, you're out of order!" And I was like, "Yeah!" But I went in, and it was just people like talking very softly to each other, and then like no decision made, and then that was it. And then there was another thing that would come into the same room. But I did want to. I like the idea of it. And I toyed with it later on, too. I toyed with, like, law school just as an idea before I got into Teach for America. But I don't know. And
you never wanted to be a nurse?
I never wanted to go into the medical field at all. And I don't know why. I think the side of the fact that my mom was a nurse affected me because I was just very careful, like, as a kid. Like, I didn't learn how to ride a bike growing up, like some would call it sheltered. I think my mother would call it careful. And I feel like that has stuck with me a lot because I'm not a huge risk taker in a physical sense. Like I went skiing. I learned how to ski, but I like couldn't enjoy it because I was so sort of like I'm gonna get hurt doing this. Like for sure, it's just a matter of time, right? Like everybody you know who skis has had a horrendous ski injury at some point, or like a bad one. And I'm like, I don't want to be hurt, so I'm just not gonna do that.
Do you still feel that way when you do things?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think that is how I think everybody probably at this point has some form of anxiety. I think mine manifests in like I'm just like very risk averse in that sense. All right. Or at least I try to be.
So in your bio, you talk about when you were a kid, you watched your older sister do a lot of theater and musicals, it says, right? Mm-hmm. And then after...
Thank you for reading my bio, by the way.
Oh, I have to. Don't thank me. It's job.
Oh yeah, you asked for it.
So as a kid, you're watching your sister doing these musicals, and you kind of get the feeling, a jealousy, I think, is what you said.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I think that's the only way. I don't know that I knew it was jealousy when it was happening. I don't know that I was like 7, like, if it actually wasn't like that at all, because I like loved going to see her perform, and I was always super proud, but I wasn't jealous of.
Yeah, I guess jealous makes it seem like you kind of hate your sister.
No, it's hard though, because I think I think most people would hear that and think like I was jealous of all the attention she got, and I resented her for it, but I didn't. I was like envious of that. Not only that level of attention, which I think is obviously why I continue to like perform and do comedy, is because I, for some reason, crave attention pathologically. But I also think like, I don't know, it just looked like so much fun to like be able to connect with an audience and like do it. I don't know. I just like I loved singing anyway, and I loved hearing people sing. So I was like, man, that's gotta feel good. Like take that last bow and have people like on their feet, just like losing their minds for you.
And how old were you when this started happening? When this revelation happened that this?
I was 24. No, I was. That's a good question, actually. I don't really know. I mean, for as long as I can remember, like so my sister. Well, I guess that's not true. I started seeing her regularly perform when she got to high school. So she went to Notre Dame, which is in Worcester, which you've had a guest on here that went to Notre Dame.
Yeah,
Leah, right?
Yeah.
So I listen to the podcast.
Yeah. What a guy you are.
I mean, I do what I can. I don't know about that guy, by the way, she was dating. That guy sounds like, that episode ended, I was like, they're going to get back together. They're going to get back together. I need to warn her. I need to warn her. Somebody needs to tell her.
That's really funny.
So she went there, and I would go. So let's see, she was like 13 or 14, so I was 7 or 8. That's like as early as I can remember. But I also have like weird, like vague memories of like family vacations where we would do little performances and like things.
As a family?
Yeah, like as a group of cousins, not like my parents.
Yeah,
and stuff. That would be bizarre. That would be admittedly very, very strange.
Okay.
No, like our cousins would put on these. The one I remember is I Just Can't Wait to Be King. Like a very vague. I'm sure my older cousins remember this better than I do, but like I think I was Simba, and I think it was just lip syncing. But I remember being like, I want to sing this. Like, I can sing that. When I sing it, it sounds pretty good.
Your cousins were holding you back.
Yeah, you know what? They were holding me back. I moved out to California just to spite them.
So
20 years later, 30 years later.
So you're 7 years old, and then in your bio it said that, like, you kind of, obviously at 7 you weren't joining musicals, and then you were just kind of like...
No, I was being recruited for them. I'm just kidding.
And you kind of just did, like, quote-unquote normal childhood things, play sports, and then it seems like you didn't pick up acting until you came, or not even acting, but improv until you went to high school. And for people that don't know, the high school Brendan and I went to, it's called St. John's in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts.
We are.
It's an all-male high school. It holds about 1,200 kids from 9th to 12th grade. Wow. And
admissions counselor? How do you know all this?
Weirdly enough, I was one of those kids that, like, when there was someone coming to shadow, like,
I was like, let's...
Yeah, but for the dumb kids that were coming to shadow. Because I remember, I'll never forget it. I was in really the level 2 class.
I know, Deuce.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And they had a level 2 student coming in who was transferring. And I actually ended up getting into a fist fight with this student like months later and getting in a lot of trouble for it. So they never let me do it again. But now I have all this useless knowledge.
It became like a farm system for you to find people to fight. Like, I think you should come to St. John's and I'll kick your ass.
Excuse me. Yes. That's very funny. But so you went to St. John's.
I did. I didn't fight anybody.
Yeah, well, I could tell. So you went to St. John's, and did you immediately join improv? Like, first quarter there, you were like, yes, I am doing this.
No, ironically, the first thing I did was try out for football.
Ooh, tough.
Very tough. I think I still am a little sore from it, honestly. It was because that happens in like August. Mm-hmm. I'd never played football before. I wasn't small. I think in my head I was like, I'm big. Like, I'm a big kid. And I'm just built big. Like, I could be fit.
Yeah.
But if I'm not fit, I'm going to be like fat. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to be that like sort of skinny in between. And I was like, well, if I play football, I'll get fit. And I'm like big and I'm pretty coordinated. Like, I wasn't like my whole life has been sort of like a B-ish, B-plus effort. Not in the amount of effort I'm putting in, but just like the outcome has always been in that B++ range. And I think sports were that for me, where I was like, I have good hand-eye coordination. I can like hit a baseball. I can like throw accurately. I was afraid of the ball because I was risk averse, and I was like, baseball coming at me fast, high risk. I do not want to get hit with that thing. But I was like, I can play football. Like I can definitely play, and I was incorrect about that.
Was Andreoli the coach then, or was it Wood?
The only person I remember is Fontecchio's dad. Mr. Fontecchio.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I'm guessing
the ony one that didn't yell at you that day.
there was no one who didn't yell at me that day. There were other kids trying out who were yelling at me that day.
Did you make it through the tryouts? Or did you quit in the middle?
I don't think I made it to the first cut, though, and this is obviously very easy for me to say. I do think I would have made it to the first cut because of my size. Just because I had hit puberty. A lot of other kids who were trying out hadn't. I just think like they could have just plugged me in somewhere. But I didn't make it because I didn't want to do it. Like I was getting my ass kicked. I like was not having fun.
Yeah.
I had never really like done anything like that before, and I knew I wanted to do other stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna be a football kid. Like I think I can make that call now. Yeah. Save a lot of time, a lot of money.
And that team went on to be very good. Your grade. They came out to be monsters, so it's probably better. You know
what's actually really funny that I'm just remembering right now that I'm guessing my classmates would remember is that I got this award senior year called the Richard Christmas Award, I think, and Mr. Dolan presented it to me. And in his speech, he made reference to like something like all of this while also being on the freshman football team. And the way they used to give out those awards was like they would describe the person and you would be like, oh, it's got to be one of these 5 people. And then it would like, you kind of narrow it down. And it got to the point where it was like clearly me. And then he said that and everyone around me was like, what? I guess it's not you, but who else did the musical The Fantastics and played football? Like there's nobody who fits that. So he calls me up and the entire football team was like gave me like a very fake standing ovation. Like I remember
well, you finally got what you wanted, people clapping for you on the feet.
I specifically remember Mike Foley and Kevin Caranto like as I'm coming down the bleachers to accept the award, being like, "Football Sarge! He's the greatest football player of all time."
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So anyway, so I wanted to do Model UN because an old friend of mine had like somebody I knew growing up who was a little older than me.
I was gonna say an old friend.
An old friend. God, at that point I'd known him for almost 30 years. No, he just was somebody I grew up with, and he did it. And I don't remember if I did. I think I did that first, and then I met somebody named. He goes by Russell now, but he went by Rusty, and his last name is Johnson. So that's why he goes by Russell now. But in high school, he was Rusty Johnson, and he was in Model UN, and he was to that point in my life the funniest person I'd ever met. Bar none. And to this day, like I got drinks with him last summer, and he is still. I mean, he's just brilliant, and he's really, really smart, and he's a super like compassionate dude. But he is insanely funny, and he encouraged me to try out for improv, and I did.
Were you nervous?
Oh God, yeah. Actually, the first rehearsal. Oh well, sorry, it wasn't a tryout yet. It was like improv rehearsal. Mm-hmm. Because I think everybody. We had 2. We had, what was it called? We had the. St. John's Improv Society was the audition-based one, the performance one. Mm-hmm. And then we had, oh my God, this is embarrassing.
Tell me about it.
No, Chris Rosignol is going to be really mad that I can't remember this, but it was like the Green Tomatoes or something. They were like the JV improv. Anyway, so
okay.
that was the thing I like went to, and then they cast me in the group from that, and it was because I was really, really shy and I didn't get in any scenes, and I was like, oh my God, like I can't think like this, like my brain doesn't work like this. Because some people are like floundering, but then there are people who are like really, really sharp, and I was like, whoa, I've never seen comedy like this before. And then I got cast in The Dating Game. Do you know that game, that improv game?
Yeah, sure.
where I'm given a character, and my character was somebody who is deathly afraid of getting hot soup poured on their lap. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to come up with anything. I can just do that. Like, I can make that funny. And I did. I had a lot of fun with it. Like, I was very silly about it. And then they started calling me Hot Soup. So I had the nickname
Brendan Hot Soup Sargent.
I had the nickname Hot Soup all through high school, and still to this day, the juniors and seniors when I was a freshman, will call me Soup. Like if they
just
say, "What's
Mr.
up,
Soup at this point because you're an adult now.
Yeah, Mr. Soup.
Mr. Soup.
Thank you. That is the level of respect I deserve.
So, tell me what it was like doing improv at an all-male school, because from my perspective of that school, which is literally the opposite of what you did.
Basically everything.
Like, I tried out for freshman football and then stuck with football and never even went into the theater once. So, that being said, what is it like doing, because like, when you think about it, 14 to 18-year-old males aren't like, oh yeah, improv's cool, the majority of them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And there's a lot of testosterone in that building. Mm-hmm. And so what was that like for you going to a school every day where, you know, you're doing improv, but a lot of people maybe made fun of you? Maybe not you specifically, but improv in general.
This is an excellent question.
Nailed it. So good at my job.
That is an excellent question. That is a question that I have never thought of and that nobody has ever asked me.
Wow.
So my answer might be a little wonky, but I will say the first couple of years of high school, I think, or at least at St. John's, this is going to sound like a corny answer, but this is what I think is the truth. The first couple of years of St. John's, the brotherhood element of St. John's is like artificial, I think, just by nature, right? Like, we don't know each other that well. We haven't really been through that much together.
Yeah, definitely.
We don't have our own individual identities yet, even though, but like, we have to pretend like we do. Some people might have. I
think that's why everybody, when you go to school there, they call you by your last name, so you have an identity.
Yeah. You at least have a nickname.
Yeah.
And then I think what happens is the years go by and you start to have classes with a lot of these guys, like athletes. I mean, one of my best friends to this day is Austin Keeley, who was like a stud athlete, varsity crew, varsity
He's actually
basketball.
a superhero.
He's a superhero.
Yeah.
He should be the complete opposite end of the popularity spectrum to the kid who did Model UN and improv.
Yeah, for sure.
All that to say, you get to know guys and you get to have class with guys and spend time outside of St. John's doing other stuff. And then I think there's like a relationship there. And then I think when you add something like improv, which is fun and funny, I think that and like comedy in general obviously does this for a lot of people, but that is sort of like an equalizer. Yeah. It's like, yeah, like these dudes are, like some of these guys are going to get drafted into the majors, right? Like some of these guys are going to play D1 sports, but and that is stuff that I will never be able to like understand and could never do, even if I had stuck with sports.
Yeah, right.
But I think that a lot of these dudes came and saw us do improv and they were like, that is really cool. I could definitely never do that.
Wow.
And while the thing that they do is physically obviously much more impressive, and like there are fewer people that can do it that well, I think that the combination of the fact that like we're all sort of in this together as like classmates and schoolmates, and the fact that I think that they through that relationship develop an appreciation for what we can do, and like, and I think that goes.
That was a really good answer.
Thank you.
I feel like.
Thank you. That was a good question. Good questions deserve good answers. I think the same thing with musicals and theater in general too. Like I don't think that like most football players. I say football, but athletes in general. Yeah. Football, which is the biggest team. Right. Are like dying to come out to see to see me in spring show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But some of them do. And
Yeah,
some of
definitely.
them enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like there's still, I don't know.
I used to go to those shows because people like Colin Matson or you know, they
Zach
were in the
Kofos was in a bunch of them.
yeah.
Yeah. We should talk about more specific people that only some people will know.
It's what I'm trying to get at is that I was obviously on the opposite end of that spectrum, but I did.
We're both here.
Yeah,
We're both sitting in the same room right now.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's really crazy, and I used to go see those shows because of people like you that, you know, I would have a class with. I honestly never had a class with those people because they're way smarter than me. But they made me laugh in the lunch line or, you know, at gym or
Right.
whatever it is. And that's cool, man. I like that.
Yeah.
So then after high school, let's get out of high school. And
That's cool.
you went to Fairfield U. How'd you decide on Fairfield University?
I loved the campus. So I only applied to 6 colleges.
Mm-hmm.
All of them were very similar schools. Like
New England-based
they were
schools?
all New England, well, except for Fordham, but
Okay.
like all Northeast, all small liberal arts schools. The biggest being BC.
Mm-hmm. Did you get into all of them?
I got into all of them. I got waitlisted at BC, and I honestly I wanted to see if I could get in, and I didn't, and I had no desire to go there. And
Okay.
so I took my name off the waitlist because I wanted to go to Fairfield. I don't know. There was something about Fairfield to me. It seemed like kind of a hidden gem of a school. Like
How many students does Fairfield usually?
3,300, I think.
Oh, okay.
Undergrad, and then another.
Fairly small.
This is from my tour guide days, though, so it's been 5 years. 6
Yeah,
years,
yeah,
So I
right.
don't know what they might be bigger, but yeah, I don't know. I got the chance to visit the campus like a decent amount of times, and I just loved it. I loved like every bit of the campus. I loved how close it was to home and how close it was to New York. Like I kind of always
Yeah.
knew, and it was only reinforced when I worked there, but I sort of always knew I never wanted to live in New York.
Yeah, yeah.
So I saw it as an opportunity to like spend time close to New York and not have to live in New York and try to take advantage of that. And the campus was beautiful, and I met some of my lifelong friends. Like I loved it.
That's great. Now,
I just skipped right to the end of it. I went from how I chose
all right,
it to
and now at
the
post-college.
epilogue.
Yeah. So you, as a freshman, you tried out for their improv
Mm-hmm.
troupe anyways,
Mm-hmm.
called On the Spot.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was the difference for you between going from a high school improv group to a large college, mid-sized college anyways, improv?
It was.
And mind you, I also want to get into what was it like joining these people that you had never met, completely different backgrounds. They're not, going to an all-male Catholic high school.
Yeah. I mean, improving with girls was actually like much different.
I would imagine.
I think it happened. I think the first change was, I was the youngest again, which is a very strange feeling. Like that happens for everybody, right? Like it happens for athletes too, I'm guessing.
Sure.
Yeah, it felt like what it felt like to go from 8th grade to freshman year. It's like, oh, I'm starting at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Any like I almost felt like if I like try too hard or if I like put myself out there too much, it's gonna seem like I think I'm like getting too big for my britches. So like and you get all those insecurities back. But at the same time, I knew that it was the thing in my whole life that I had been best at, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
I had
sure.
never been as good at anything as I was at improv up to that point. And so I was like, well, I got to do it. Like I have to go do it, and like I have to try my best to like be funny, like even if it's gonna come across like I'm being a douche. And it did, I think, a lot for a lot of people, if we're being honest.
I hope you're being honest. Yeah.
fucking classmate of mine wrote in the newspaper, like came to watch us rehearse and wrote an article in which he said that I was a freshman and I was making waves on the improv scene, and I'm not kidding.
What a hot take for a college newspaper
I was
writer.
made fun of because of that article for the rest of my college life. Like
Stop.
my friends would busted my balls about that.
I thought you meant professors would be like, "Hey kids, stop making waves."
Yeah. No, I was local news and everything. No, it was it just followed me around, and it was like, and I think that was, I don't know, that like played into it, but it was so frustrating to read because I read it and I was like, God damn it! Like he thought he was being nice, but it just makes me look like such a tool.
Yeah, making waves.
Yeah, but so I auditioned. I actually auditioned the weekend that one of my best friends in the world who I did improv with in high school, Chris Rosignol, shout out Chris Rosignol, was coming to visit me that weekend, and I auditioned, and he was there when I like got it, and we got like absolutely shit-faced drunk, like old school like college shit-faced drunk, which I definitely cannot get anymore.
Just super dangerous.
Yeah. Like too drunk.
Yeah,
but like it's cool. Yeah, we got that kind of drunk, and he was. Oh, and that's the other thing. Thanks to Chris, when I went into audition, he was my hype man. Outside in the lobby where everybody else was waiting to audition, he was like, "Oh, I'm Brendan's friend from home. Like, he's the funniest person in the world. He's definitely going to get it." And everyone was like, "Yeah, freshmen, like, don't make the troop. So he's almost definitely not going to get it." And Chris was like, "No, he's going to get it. He's probably, like, funnier than all of you." And was, like, talking me up. And then I did get it. And so I looked like even more of a dickhead.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is every time I've ever looked bad, it's somebody else's fault. That's the moral of the story. And thank you for having me.
That seems like a LeVar and Lonzo Ball type situation.
Yes.
Just
Chris
is Lonzo Ball.
Chris has always.
LeVar.
No, I'm Lonzo.
Yeah, you're definitely
Lonzo.
Lonzo.
I'm the victim in all this.
Yeah.
Chris is my megalomaniacal father.
So you made this troupe, and how it seems in your bio you say you go to long form.
Yes.
So can you explain the difference to people that don't know the difference?
Yeah. So it's a lot. The thing I like about long form is that it's a lot easier to make waves. Short form and long form are, I guess the easiest way to explain it is like short form is more like games, where like you're sort of assigned what the joke is and you just have to execute that joke.
Okay.
In long form, you create the situation that creates the jokes. And so it's like ongoing jokes. It's more narrative, but it's your job to keep that scene moving forward and staying interesting because the jokes live in that scene and you have to go and find them. But when the scene falls apart or when like people start arguing or whatever, I'm getting into like what did I say? This was the short way to explain it. Yeah, that's. So that was really different because I had never, in high school, I was never asked to try to like build a scene and be funny at the same time, and it was a huge adjustment. It was fun.
Did it take you a long time to adjust, or was it? For those of you that can't see, Brendan just gave me a look like, "You fucking kidding me?"
No, I was gonna make another joke.
You're so funny.
It didn't take a long time to adjust, but I think it's because
did it take a long time to get good at it? Adjusting is different.
Yes, it took me a long time to get anywhere close to how I felt I was as good in high school. Mm-hmm. Like, but I also had upperclassmen that were very funny and very, very good coaches to me. Nice. And then I also got to part of being in that group was that the club improv that was not tryout based that anybody could join, we were the coaches in that. And so that was a huge adjustment too because I was then like for 3 hours on Friday I was trying to be funny and then for the next 3 hours or hour and a half, 2 hours, I don't remember, and then for the next chunk I was trying to show other people how to be funny.
That's
but like sometimes I would have 2 hours previous where I didn't feel funny at all.
Yeah.
Or like when I was learning, I was like,
were these people
I don't even know
older
how to
than
do
you?
this myself. How am I supposed to? Some of them were, yeah.
That's gonna be a weird thing.
Yeah, you're paired up. So I was coaching with another upperclassman at least.
Okay.
So I was more there as like support and extra eye. I tried to do less of the, like, hey, don't do that. Person who's been doing improv longer than I have.
Yeah. So outside of improv in college, you wrote. This is when you started writing plays, or
Actually, I wrote some plays. So I started as a theater minor.
yeah. What was your major?
It was English.
Okay.
And then I was a double major in film until senior year, when I got a job, and I was basically like, I'm gonna try to make the second half of my senior year as fun as possible.
Yeah, sure.
And like, I got a job as an English teacher. I have my English like stuff done. I like getting this film major, like spending my spring working on a capstone project. It would have been really fun, and I think I would have learned a lot, and it probably would have helped me now.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the time, I was like, I don't think I'm going to regret dropping this, and I still don't. I actually really don't regret it. I think it was the right move.
So when you say you acted in some student films, what was that like for you going into that process of writing and going from improv and like plays in high school to writing your own and acting in them as well? That's got to be different, obviously.
Yeah, it's I didn't have a lot of fun in college theater, and I don't really know why. I think like I wasn't in a play until after sophomore year. I think it was one because I just preferred film to theater, and so once I started acting in student films, I was like, I think I would rather study this than theater. And so like I had written a couple plays. I tried to turn them into short scripts. I wrote another couple screenplays for like classes and stuff.
Were any of them good by your standards?
At the time, I thought, yes, definitely these are actually good. I've gone back and read them, and I don't know. I think if you go back and read something you wrote like 10 years ago and you're like, this is still really good, that's maybe not a good sign. But I'm like, the idea's there. Like, there's some cool stuff. There's some like cool sentences that I threw together when I was in college. I was like, I can or like ideas.
Is it a different creative kind of process from writing from what you were doing? Like, because you know what I mean. And I don't know. And improv is obviously comedy. I hope.
I actually only do serious improv. I probably should have mentioned that. All my improv is highly dramatic.
So were these plays that you were writing, were those comedies? Were they serious? What were they about?
I guess, honestly, they were so... They were probably mostly drama. I don't really remember them all that well. I just remember being like, I'm going to throw together like some character. Like, it would be like for a theater class, it'd be like, write a 10-page play. I'm like, all right, like I can like create it was basically like improvising a scene and then writing it, like improvising a scene in my head and just writing it down and being like, all right, here's my fucking scene, like whatever.
And then so we'll skip that. Junior year, you interned at SNL, Saturday Night Live, for people that live under a rock.
Saturday Night. I didn't even realize it stood for that. It was just SNL. Saturday Night Live. Huh.
So tell me, how did you get that internship? What was it like? What did you learn? What didn't you expect to learn that you learned?
There was a girl named Megan McKeon. Shout out Megan McKeon if you are listening to this. She was a junior when I was a freshman. I did not know her very well at all. Like I maybe like helped PA on one of her films or something. Like barely in passing knew each other. But the media center was pretty tight, and so we saw each other a lot, and like sort of like we're overlapping in the space a lot. And I had made clear to my advisor that, like, I wanted to work in New York. Like, my dream job would be Saturday Night Live. I loved SNL growing up. And she worked there, and she contacted her boss and got me an interview.
Really?
Like, just because we were part of the same program.
You're telling me you never took this girl out for Chinese food? Like,
I swear to God, like, I still feel like, even after that, we didn't, like, become friends. Like, she was just, like... I think she had friends with people in the improv, in my improv troupe, and like like kind of just vouched for me. It was like, hey, if there's somebody in our program who
just like anything that goes bad in your life is not your fault, anything that goes good in your life is also not your fault.
I have had zero impact on my own life since the day I was born. It's
really
great.
funny.
I don't have to take any credit for anything, and I can never be blamed. So I interviewed, and it was like kind of a courtesy interview because they didn't have any spots. And she was like, yeah, like, and I was like, honestly, that's cool. Like, I got to see Studio 8H on the interview. I got to, like, sit at the writer's table, see the Lonely Island's office. Like, it was worth it to me.
Yeah, right.
And so I pushed it out of my head, completely pushed it out of my head. And then, like, 2 weeks into junior year, I got a call from, I think his name is Jeff Vanderkrook. Should I be doing that? I'm using a lot of people's last names.
That's okay.
Okay.
As long as
shout out Jeff.
What you're saying is true.
Anyways. And he was like, hey, do you still want to, I think he was just like, hey, do you still want to come and intern at Saturday Night Live? Like, that's how he opened the phone call. I was like, yeah. And he was like, cool, can you come on Tuesday? And it was Friday, and I was like, oh, yeah, definitely. And I had a full slate of classes on Tuesday. Like, I had taken a couple days off, but because I didn't think I was getting SNL.
Yeah, right.
So I, like, had to shift my schedule completely. And then I had to, like, cut those. Like, there were a couple classes I couldn't move from that day, so I just had to, like, have my first absence in, like, the first week of school. I just cut them.
Shit.
But anyway, I went and started, and then I worked there, I think Tuesday, Friday, Saturday for the semester.
And what were you doing? Were you being a PA, like helping set things up? Were you
honestly
getting waters?
It was getting waters. I mean,
Okay.
It was getting coffee, it was getting waters, getting salads. Those are the things I remember the most. The cool part, there were a couple that was probably 80%. And it was cool because in doing that, I got to like sit and chat and eat lunch with a lot of the cast members and stuff and like pick people's brains, and especially the writers. They were just always around. But the other parts of it were like, so I was like technically a research intern as a writing intern. And if they were, let's say like Daryl Hammond was going to do an impersonation of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he had never done one. He probably has, but let's say he had never done one.
Yeah, right.
I would like run down to Barnes & Noble, pick up like 4 Arnold movies for him. That cool. Actually, now that I think of it though, it's so easy to just download them that I'm guessing that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Ooh. Interesting technological advancement that I haven't thought of till right now. I'm dating myself. I used to run down to the local Borders. Wait a minute.
Blockbuster.
Walden Books.
So what? Okay, before we shut the fuck up.
No, I didn't know. I don't even think I answered your question. Did I? What did I do? Oh, so stuff like that, and then I also would help. Whatever Christmas special came out in 2009, I helped compile the footage for.
Oh, that's cool.
And then like other, I don't know. There'd be like random little things like that. I once stamped or licked the envelopes for every single person that Lorne Michaels sent a Christmas card to.
Oh my God.
And so when I tell you, like, I'm like the addresses that I was privy to at that time, it's mind blowing. I'm like looking through stuff and it's like Bill Russell, Paul McCartney. I was like, I'm looking at fucking Paul McCartney's home address right now. Like, this is bananas. So stuff like that. But it was cool. It was just cool to be around folks. And like everybody at SNL, like every cast member, every writer was not only like really, really nice, but nice despite being under constant, like insane pressure from everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I was always that was very uplifting for me because they were like nice and they were cool and they were really funny and they were like willing to talk to you. But they were super busy all the time and they just like loved it. It was really cool. But I can see why people like leave and they're like, wow, they left only after 5 years.
Only?
Yeah, like I can see why people take off, even though it is sort of like a dream come true.
Tell me one thing from SNL that you can tell me either one thing you learned at SNL that you never even had thought of before then, or your favorite memory from SNL.
Oh, my favorite memory was the digital short I was in the background for.
Fair enough.
Like, that was cool. Not just because I was on TV, which was really cool and obviously something that had never happened before. but I also met Taylor Swift, and like that, and the experience of shooting that was very cool. Like Akiva Schaffer.
Really weird she didn't write a love song about you.
We don't know that for sure, so I don't know why you would say that. No, she was super nice, and the episode ended up being really fucking funny, and it was directed by Akiva Schaffer, so like he was like telling me where to stand. Like it was just kind of by chance that I was put where I was. Like I was blurred out anyway, but. Yeah, I was like, you go here. He was like, you go here, you go here. And if he had put me in any of like the other 5 extras positions, I wouldn't have even been in the scene.
Yeah, right. That's cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. And then like a lot of the hosts were very cool. And like a lot of the cast members were. I mean, like it Will Forte called my roommate Andy on his birthday and sang him happy birthday, which was really funny because he like sang it in a really weird voice, and Andy goes, "Is this Bill Hader?" And Will Forte like dies laughing and was like, "No, idiot." Yeah, it was cool.
So SNL wraps. You finish your internship there. You graduate from Fairfield, and then you.
And then I did the logical next thing, and I became a high school English teacher.
And where were you teaching?
Chelsea, Massachusetts.
Seems tough.
It is, but. Now, it's awesome.
The kind of school you were at was lower income school?
Low income. So Chelsea's really small, very densely populated city just north of Boston. Historically low income, and that's measured by the percentage of students who receive a free or reduced lunch. That is how the government, like that is the demarcation for low income.
So let me ask you this, and it's obviously not that you've never seen low-income families or situations.
No, that was it. That was the case when I started teaching. Yeah, more or less.
Okay, so tell me what that's like, because you went to an all-male Catholic high school, you went to Fairfield University, you interned at SNL, and now all of a sudden you're teaching at this low-income school. What's that? Go for it.
So I think, like, in a nutshell, teaching made like empathy and compassion very tangible for me. Like I think St. John's and Fairfield were both like Catholic schools that did a lot of like community service and helped a lot of people and donated a lot of money to charities. And like I think as a kid or even as like a young adult in college, like that was very theoretical to me. I was like, well, of course I support. Like, of course I think schools should be better. Of course I think, people should have equality. Like, you know what I mean? It was just like, It was a given. It was like, of course I'm empathetic. But when I started teaching in Chelsea, I was like, I didn't know, like even like students' reading levels. Like, when I was get kids, like they were a few grades behind, and I was kind of like, oh, so this stuff that I like kind of thought I would be teaching as a high school teacher is like off the table. So I got to kind of like rethink my whole approach. And then I don't know, it was kids with experiences totally different than mine.
How did you relate to kids like this?
I tried to be as straightforward with them as possible about how different their experiences were from mine. Because I think that Did they appreciate that, or were they like, fuck you, man? I mean, I think a lot of kids were like, fuck you, man, just because of like my personality. And I mean that. I think like I taught every kid, but I didn't connect with every kid. Like not every kid liked me. But I think most of them did. And I think I think that they appreciated that I was trying my best not to come in there and be like, hey, because I am because I was born middle class, and I have a college education, I therefore have automatic authority over this classroom and over your education, and like you should trust me inherently. Yeah. I think that is a really dangerous mindset that a lot of teachers start with, is like, I'm an authority right off the bat. And it's like, I went in there and I was like, holy crap. Like very quickly I realized that a lot of these kids had been through shit that and they're great kids, and they don't, I'm not trying to say that every kid in Chelsea is like, terrible situation. It's not the case at all. They like, most of my students were like happy and healthy and had families that loved them, but it's still like living in poverty is traumatic. Like scientifically, it induces trauma. So, and kids are much more susceptible to crime and violence, and that just like I like it humbles you immediately, because you're like, wow, I don't know what this is like at all. So actually, like, in this community, in this space, you are the authority here on like right and wrong, on all that stuff. And then you sort of like figure out a way to come to a middle ground where you're not letting the kids make the rules of your classroom, telling me to like take 5 minutes and sit in the corner or something.
Now, was it in this classroom that you met your fiance?
Yes, it was. Well, we met through Teach for America. We got to know each other. Wink, wink. No, no, we didn't get to we didn't start becoming friends till we got to the high school. And then after our first year of teaching concluded, the school put us together to teach in the same classroom.
So what was that like?
It was interesting. It was like, it was just
Were you living together?
No.
Oh,
We actually never lived together and taught together, which I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Otherwise, you wouldn't be getting married right
because,
now.
Well, because definitely not. Because I am both an annoying coworker and an annoying roommate, and I mean that wholeheartedly. Like my style of teaching is not naturally conducive to a partner in the classroom.
Yeah, right.
But it does necessitate it. Like, it's not like I'm so good that I don't need somebody. It's like I'm not a good enough collaborator to let somebody work well with me, and just like it's a flaw.
Yeah.
So I think it was hard because of that, because I think we did click on a personal level, obviously, really well, and we did have like very identical values when it came to education and when it came to serving our community and like what it meant for our kids to have good teachers, all that important stuff. And I think that's ultimately what like prevailed, because that stuff is super, super important.
Shout out to Lauren. I love her.
Shout out Lauren Harwood, soon to be Lauren Sargent.
Poor lady.
If she wants to.
Yeah,
I'm like
completely up to her.
I'm super progressive. I don't really.
So you're in Boston, you're with Lauren, you're teaching. At what point in time did you think, hey, this might not be what I want to do? Hey, I want to try stand-up comedy?
That's a good question, because sorry, kick the mic.
Jackass.
I loved teaching a lot, and I loved it more and more as I did it, and I loved it more than I thought I would. But I still don't think, even at my maximum enjoyment of the job, I don't think I ever saw myself as a teacher more than as a comedian.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't mean stand-up comedian, because I wasn't that would be really weird, because I'd never done stand-up before. I also feel like I'm a professional swimmer too.
Yeah.
No, It was just always something that, like, I don't know. Like I said, it was like the thing I had been best at up into every time I tried a new version of it, I was like, oh, I feel like this is the thing I'm best at.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt that way when I started doing stand-up too.
Yeah.
Again, not like I'm the best one out here. Not like I'm the best one out here, but like, ooh, I might actually be better at stand-up than I was at improv, which I don't necessarily know or think that is the case, but I think it's
very hard to compare.
I think it's very hard to compare, and I think it's possible that it could get to that point, which I don't even think I thought that it would be possible when I started doing it, or when I started thinking about it.
I remember we were at I think Sally O'Brien's.
Mm-hmm. Somerville.
Yeah, Somerville.
Right in Union Square.
You had just started doing stand-up, like maybe.
I think Sally's was the first place I ever did an open mic.
So this makes it even more annoying.
This might have been the first ever time.
Because I'm sitting in the back of the bar with a couple other comics, and you go up there, and like Sally O'Brien's is a room where you usually don't get a laugh because people are just there to tell their own goddamn jokes.
I hated that place.
It's really annoying.
And it's 2 minutes.
Yeah, and it's 2 minutes, but you went up there and you made everyone laugh to the point where I was like, I fucking hate Brendan. like I'm not inviting him to any more open mics that I do. And it's crazy to think that something that you hadn't even thought about up until, that kind of couple months anyways, that you just jumped into it and you nailed it. So going from there, when did you decide you were going to move to California? How did that process go? Or was that already in the works before you started doing stand-up?
Ooh, what is the timeline on that? No, I think there was conversation about going to LA before I first tried stand-up, though the two happened close by each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to think of the monthage of it. But Lauren and I and a couple other teachers did a teaching program in Palo Alto for 2 weeks, and it was all expenses paid, and it was really great teaching PD. And we wanted to make the most of our like free flight, and so we took a road trip down to LA, stayed with Joel, who is in the room right now. Hi, Joel. Sorry. And spent a week in LA and had like an awesome time. And I think I was like, I don't really care what kind of time I have. I want to move to LA. But I think Lauren was very much like, I don't think it's going to be fun. And then we both had an amazing time and both were like excited about what it might mean to live here. And then that winter was the worst winter like in 100 years in Boston. 2014, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know about it. It was 100 years, but you know what I mean? It was a really bad winter. And
I was there. I was snow plowing. I remember.
Yes. And we were like, I don't know. It was like an overwhelming amount of like snow days and snow and like I drove my car off the road at one point. It was fine.
On purpose?
Yeah, I was so angry about the snow. No, but it was just like all that stuff that you're like, oh, this is optional.
Yeah.
Like this is optional. We're not prisoners in the Northeast. We can like move. We're young. We don't have kids. Like we should just go move somewhere else. And it was like one of those conversations. And then we did the same fellowship the following summer and did the same 1 week with Joel. This time it was before the fellowship. We had like an awesome time the night before the fellowship. We went out with like somebody who's can I say his name? Yeah. So we went out with Thomas Middleditch.
Oh, wow.
From Silicon Valley. He's like this incredible improviser. And we went out with him and our friend Amy and Joel and me and Lauren, and we went to Funky Soul, I think. And we just like danced and like took tequila shots and just fucking hung out. And we were like, Joel and I were like chatting with Thomas and like riffing and joking around in the line and making each other laugh. And I was like, all right, if I can be like drunk and still keep up with Thomas Middleditch in terms of like just like being on my toes and like making jokes and not looking like an asshole.
To be fair, I assume Thomas was drunk as well, so it's kind of an.
He was actually fast asleep. But no, I mean we were all drunk, but he is like honestly, I say keeping up. That is a generous term. He is like brilliant and just like ultra fast all the time. But I was like, I can hang with these people, and I kind of got that sense at SNL too. Like I never felt overmatched, except occasionally by Bill Hader. But I never felt overmatched in casual conversation in terms of like, can we keep this conversation like funny and light?
Yeah, right.
Not that everything is like, but just like keep like staying sharp with another person.
Not looking like an idiot.
Not looking like an idiot. Yeah, exactly. Not being like, oh, okay, thanks so much, and then walking away. So I then the wheels were in motion. Then we were like, we're doing it. We're gonna drive out here, and
you did,
and we did.
And you've been here for how long now?
Year and a half, like yesterday, I think.
Yeah. Since you moved here, what has been the best and the worst? You know what I mean? Like what has happened here that you're like, wow, I never expected that. This is so great. It would never happen unless I was here. And then what has been so bad that you're like, I hate this town. This would only happen here.
So the worst, I'll say the worst first because I actually do think it's traffic. And I think it's not like, I don't mind sitting in traffic necessarily, although I prefer freeway traffic to like Sunset or Santa Monica Hollywood traffic.
Without a doubt.
It's just that like there's so much to do on the west side that it's like it just takes so long, and it's a bummer. And so like I was out on the west side with shooting this thing for my friend Mike, shout out Mike Levitt, and I was leaving at 6 a.m. and coming home at like 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. And so there was no traffic, and I was like, man, I should come out here all the time. Like I'm in Venice. Like I'm in Venice. It only took me like 25 minutes. But it's just such a nightmare. But I think the one single thing, I'm not just saying this because Joel is in the room. I think the one single thing that has been sort of most, I'll say unexpectedly rewarding because I didn't really, this was sort of like a pet project of mine, but when I had this idea for a TV show, a blog that like chronicled bathrooms in famous places. And it started when I went to Australia and I went to the Sydney Opera House, and I was like blown away by the bathroom. I was like, this is its own opera house. This is like the most beautiful room I've ever been in my life. And I was like, that's sort of like an untapped comedic market. Like nobody, like, I don't know. And then it was like, travel shows are super popular. Anyway, I started a blog for it. It doesn't really work. Like, I don't know, because you have to like take a lot of pictures. The pictures don't really do it justice. It ends up, I tried to like make it funny and it didn't really work. And so I like tucked it away. And then I told Joel about the idea, and it just sort of like slowly transformed into like, well, what if it wasn't famous places? What if it was just like anybody's bathroom? Because there's going to be way more comedy in that.
For sure.
Than like, a beautiful, nice bathroom. There's not a lot of comedy. That actually is more of like a legitimate travel show.
Yeah.
But like somebody's bathroom, or even like a slightly known location's bathroom that has like silly stuff in it, is funnier. And so we started shooting it as a web series. And I had the idea, the name Dear John I had from
It's such a
2011.
perfect name.
It is the thing I am best at. That name. Yes, I agree. I'm a big fan of it.
I'm a big fan of the web series.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's so much fun, and it's so silly, and it's like the most... I did a little bit of improv out here, but it's tough not knowing anybody. It's super expensive, which I think makes it less fun, honestly.
Yeah,
because every class, I'm like, oh my god, this is like $85, and I like barely like got to go up. It's anxiety inducing. But Dear John is all improvised, and imagine if this is all scripted. We started telling people that it's a scripted web series. It's all improvised, and I mean, you're gonna talk to Joel, but like, Joel is the funniest person I've ever known, and
ever.
I think so. Yeah, I do think so. I go back. I have a lot of really funny friends.
We'll let my audience be the decider of that.
Let's put it this way. The funniest person I've ever known is more objective. I think he is the funniest person to me that I've ever known. He makes me laugh, I think, differently than most people.
Tickle fights or...
but we keep it below the belt. So getting to do with him, and it's just such like a dumb, I don't know, it's such a dumb content. Like on paper, it's like it's literally a show where we like go in and talk about how like good or bad people's bathrooms are. Yeah. But I think with mostly Joel's guidance, like the quality of it, the production value of it is like quite high, and that to me is funny in and of itself. So like I watch it and I'm just entertained at how seriously we take it, because we do take it seriously. Like we have email threads and like calendar events, and it's like we just go in and we're like, hey, like, is this what you wipe your ass with? like just stupid stuff. I don't know. It's the perfect combination for me of like taking something seriously, but not taking like life too seriously, but like still taking the project really seriously. That's sort of how I like to approach
that.
My comedy.
Okay, so we're wrapping up here.
Let's wrap it up.
One thing I always ask my guests is, what is your advice to people that haven't taken the chance that you have taken, whether it was, teaching or comedy or improv, whatever it is? What is your advice to people that are afraid to jump off that ledge?
Be very honest with yourself about what your shortcomings are. That's something that I have always struggled with, I think. But like the more I unpack them and the more I can like try to address them, I think the easier your life gets. Like you start to this like really cool idea you have for yourself becomes more and more of a reality if you can say like, you know what? Generally, like I'm really bad at remembering things. Or like I'm personally like really bad at like double booking stuff. I don't do it anymore for the most part. Now that I like use my calendar very, very like rigidly. So stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be like I'm morally a bad person. It's just like things you're not good at. Like be honest with yourself about things you're not good at, and if you if you do have something that you want to do, like make a list of the things that you need to do it, and then be like, all right, I'm definitely not good at this or this or this. So I don't know, because I feel like those are the
That's
areas
really
where
good advice.
you hit like roadblocks and you're like, oh, I'm not good at this, and then that's when you give up. And that's like on the stuff that on projects that I've started that I've given up on, or like football teams I've quit on. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. It's like I get to this point where I'm like, oh, I'm not good at that. I needed to get good at that by now, and I haven't, so I'm done. So
that's really good advice.
Get good at stuff is my advice.
I like the switch up because most people just say, "Do it, man, do it." But
no,
I like
figure out exactly how terrible you are, and then try and do it.
Do you think that's something from your mom where you're always just like, "Is this gonna hurt me?" Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, I don't. It's actually. I don't know. I sometimes think that like I've said this before and done jokes about like my parents are too supportive of me, and so and like I love them for it. And I think it turned me into a very like compassionate, like kind person, and like funny and stuff. But I do think that I was not taught to reflect on my own flaws all that often in like a meaningful way.
Sure.
And that's something that my parents decided to do with me, and I'm glad they did. I like coming to it at this age. If you start self-loathing too early.
Well, Brendan, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. This is fun.
Do you have anything? Any shows coming up?
When's this getting released?
Like 2 weeks.
No. I'll be at the Comedy Store on March 10th, and I was like trying to count the days. I was like, nah, that's like 8 days. That's probably not gonna be up by then. No, go to YouTube and search Dear John and probably the word bathroom as well, because there's a lot of other Dear John.
Yeah, that's like a military thing.
We picked a pretty it's like a breakup letter as a Dear John. There was a TV show that has a great theme song. But don't watch that. Go watch our web series. There's 5 episodes right now. Posting the 6th one hopefully next week.
Your social media?
At BSarge Comedy, I think. BSARGE. Man, saying that out loud makes it sound so stupid. I'm going to change that.
Yeah. Well, if he changes it, I'll put it in the bio.
Yeah, thank you. BSarge.
Thanks for coming in,
Thanks,
Brendan.
man.
Today's musical guest is Anthony Dante. Anthony is a very good friend of mine, and his EP just dropped last week.
Oh!
He's a blues singer, and today's music is going to be called Yosemite. Take a listen, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Yosemite, oh, how you hold me, oh, how you carry me, oh, how you move me along. Oh, Yosemite, you let me feel free. Lend me your back, your feet. Steadfast and strong, my aeroplane. Your saddle is my wings. Your tears let me sing. You carry the burden of me on your back. Does it feel nice to not have a choice? Let someone take the reins for you. Claim your voice, run the light, run wild, run free. Without me. Yosemite, do your eyes lie to me? So noble and deep they seem, or are you just biding your time? Oh, Yosemite, mountains call you home. Your saddle is my wings, your teeth let me sing. You carry the burden of me on your back. Does it feel nice to not have a choice? Let someone take the reins for you. Does it keep away the pain, stop you from going insane? Not have to live up to yourself like myself. Oh, Yosemite, you're always with me in every big city. You might just bite him